Hello, everyone, and welcome to a Christmassy talk with. I know I'm sure you've watched at least one of the others, but if you haven't, this is basically my sub-series of my actual podcast to talk with, where I bring on guests who've already been on the show to discuss some festive and Christmassy topics, if that, like the title suggests. And I'm here with the one, the only Connor Chadwick, owner of Overton Audios. Introduce yourself.
Hello, like you said, my name's Connor Chadwick, and yes, I make all the Overton audio stuff, and yeah, it's good to be back. Thank you for asking me.
Oh, it's great to have you back. I mean, how are you today?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I've been obviously I live more Essex way, so I was traveling. I travelled up to Coventry, then via Milton Keynes for some work stuff. Because all the trains with the train strikes and everything meant I had to get up at 4 to be somewhere at 9, and all
Yeah.
this lovely stuff. But no, it was good. Good. Went and did some work. Came back here about 2 or 3. Fell asleep. Woke up about half an hour ago. All the good stuff. All the good stuff.
Of course, of course. I mean, there's of course a joke that you do not sleep, but that has been proven wrong. Yeah, it's a world
Yes,
first.
yes.
Connor Chadwick
I'm sorry
does
to disappoint.
in fact sleep. Yeah. How's
Mm.
your Christmas going so far?
It's been a while. I haven't really had a chance to actually stop and really absorb the season yet. I'm kind of holding it in for when I go and stay at my dad and stepmom's for
Mm.
Christmas. We usually me and my dad have always done this thing where like maybe the 23rd or so we'll just have a pajama day. We'll go and get loads of snacks from the shop, and then we'll just go and watch films. Like me and my dad's favorite film to watch is a film called Uncle Buck with John Candy
Kind of
and
really, it doesn't really ring that much of a bell for
it's
me.
quite a silly film. A lot of people like when it's only me and him who like it in the family. Everybody else is like such a silly film, and we're like, yeah, but it's kind of like it's got some about like sort of silly humor because my dad's whilst he can be like quite I suppose he's very he's got this element when you meet him. He seems quite well, not I wouldn't say like stern and serious, but he takes everything like quite seriously. But then he's also got this mischievous side to him. Like when I was growing up, he would say stuff like when we went to Nando's for the first time, I wasn't aware that you paid up front. So he'd go, "Come on, let's run without paying." And we just ran off down the street. And obviously, he had obviously paid, but that's because at Nando's, they charge you before you give you your food. It was some of those
Yeah.
things. So it's got that. But so in like those sort of films, then we just watch other little Christmassy films like The Santa Claus, which have now released that series, haven't they, on Disney Plus? The
Yeah, I
follow
believe
up.
they have. I mean, well, what's your favorite Christmas-based film? Like,
Um, I know I've been recently looking at the Polar Express again. Actually, I quite like that, and I like it now. Just not just because of the nostalgia element, but also when you look at it and you admire how films were made, how the films were being made then. Because you look at it, and a lot
yeah,
of people, it's like the whole film was a PlayStation 3 cutscene, but they made Tom Hanks look like Tom Hanks without motion capture
they really did. I mean,
before all that
it's
stuff catched up.
very impressive. I mean, I know it's back in cinema soon, in my
Yeah,
local
they did a
cinema at least.
4K
So
release, I think, didn't they? I saw.
yeah, I'm hoping to go see that because there's quite a few in cinema that I want to go see, like The Muppets Christmas Carol, Elf,
Mm,
and The Polar Express, all of which are some of my favorite Christmas films. I mean,
mm,
Home Alone as well, but that's not back in cinema. But The Muppets Christmas Carol is my personal favorite. That's
yeah.
oh, it's a classic. But yeah, so my first kind of question is more or less about your achievements throughout the year. Uh,
Mm.
that's generally just what I'm asking. Like, what are your kind of looking back in reflection? What would you class your achievements throughout the year? Doctor Who wise or
Um,
otherwise?
well, this year, in terms of work wise, I went from being because my initial role was I used to just be a site assistant at the very beginning when I started a few years ago. But then I became something called an architectural compliance monitor, because I go on a lot about it on my main podcast, but I work in like a construction element. So I go around sites
Yeah,
to review things, but I've recently become an actual company director
yeah.
which
Uh,
uh which was very nice. Obviously, I know my dad's like the one who made the company, so it's all like the whole thing of the prodigal son getting that. But he was always like he's one who's he was always a case of you have to kind of earn that. You can't just because it does if the company has to be able to run. You can't just hire anybody, even if they're related. But no, I did that. Obviously, in terms of audios, there was recently the first Doctor Adventure stuff we made, which we finished before Christmas last year, I was finishing editing them as Christmas last year rolled around, because when Michael Cox wrote them, they were about an hour long each, and it all comes out in one day. So it was like, I have to get this done ASAP because it's just going to mess with things. But
Yeah.
and obviously we made the Tortured volumes with James Sutton, who you've had obviously already on your Christmassy talk. You know, that's kind of been a few years in the making all this stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, not gonna, like, you know, obviously in terms of what we've done with Overton Audios, we departed from DW 2012 and then have moved into making our own shared universe called Prism, which has been quite interesting to do. We've had some result of kind of, it's that thing like we were talking about in the last one about all the collaborations. It's just been nice. A lot more of this year has just been a lot more of talking to people rather than just being me as the hub of everything.
Yeah.
And then we've been able to spread what would have been a heavy workload of me organizing things. So like mainly, like for example, James and Eamon actually kind of show run the Torchwood volumes now. They obviously tell me what's going on for continuity's sake, and I have an input. But they basically make up the stories now and then just run the scripts by me.
Yeah.
It just feels like this year Overton Audios has gone from just being me to being kind of like a powerhouse with loads of people working on it, and it's just been really nice. It's just been really nice to have something to court for everyone to work on, really, you know. But
Yeah.
I think those are
And
the
it
main ones. Yeah.
and it works brilliantly in the end with all of you guys working together. And I mean, it's never,
Mm.
I think that's the thing about this community, is that it can be just as with all these audio channels, such as myself. In fact, I love working with people, and I love bringing in other editors to come in, and other writers and producers. And I feel like that's the thing with this community, is that we're all so creative, and I'm so glad to be because to be hearing about James and Eamon running Torch and stuff, because I mean they have some amazing ideas, as you know. And
Yeah.
even like I'm planning some Torture stuff for the 60th, and James is running that pretty much with help from me, of
Mm.
course, in a similar way
I think
to
he mentioned it very
Eamon.
briefly to me, but kept things very coy. You know, he was like, "No,
Yeah,
it's not fully planned. I'm not going to say anything. I want to keep things secret."
yeah, but it's brilliant, and I love how like the how as Prism is now, it allows for that. What are the kind of plans for Prism in the future? Without
Well,
spoiling a lot of
Well,
what's
in
coming.
terms of what's easier to explain with what Prism is, it's not a reset. For example, it's um, when you see the lineup of the doctors that are there, like Northern Blonde or Northern Young Blonde, um, Irish and Cravat. Their stories remain intact from what you've always done them for the continuity anyway. Yeah, obviously with certain differences now because of shifts in the what you might call it. What was the what like if you look at it last year, we were all part of something like else, and now it's something new. So there are shifts here
Yeah,
and there where things have to be revised and looked at. But we are working on something like we're connecting it with the there was a storyline we did in Torchwood, Rebirth, called the Nexus, and we're doing something called the Nexus Saga, which will end with an Overton Audio's 60th special, which will then fully be explaining what this is.
yeah,
With regards to everything else, we've now kind of revamped the cover art so that they have a little piece in the corner as well, saying this is a part of the Prism universe, because
mm,
we just want to be absolutely clear and not have any confusion. Because I know that things can get complicated, especially when you leave one party and go to another one. It's very much
yeah.
like that. But no, in terms of like what it is, it's essentially just like it's all of us again. Basically, it's just very similar to what you already know. Which is why I want to make it clear how it's going. Really.
Yeah, I mean that's completely understandable. It's less complex than it sounds. It's just, it's just continue. Is every party involved gets their creative freedom to do what they
Yep.
want with what they have, and it's brilliant. It should be that way, and it's amazing that it is now. It's a win-win situation for everyone.
Yeah.
Um,
There you
and yeah, so moving back to Christmas and Doctor
go.
Who, what's your favorite Doctor Who Christmas special?
I was talking to I think I was talking to Dom about this the other day. I'm stuck between now Christmas Invasion and Christmas Carol.
Hmm. I mean,
Because
Christmas
originally
Carol.
I
It's
was very firm on Christmas Invasion, and Christmas Carol was second. But I did some rewatches of it, and I thought, I don't know. They're so different because of their eras.
Mm.
But with Christmas Carol, the use of, you know, ghosts of past, present, future is a perfect concept for Doctor Who.
Oh yeah, it's
And the
perfect.
twist was showing him the future and without taking him anywhere.
Mm.
Rather bringing the past to him
That
was a
was
nice twist
that
as
was
well.
such a good twist. I mean, I remember the shock of just watching that, and I can't wait to watch it in my rewatch. That's gonna be brilliant. I mean, we're currently on the end of time on
Mm.
my rewatch with my friends at the moment.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
wow.
we've gotten to the end
Um,
of Tenant now. Um,
mm. But
yeah,
meanwhile, with Christmas Invasion, excluding all the stuff with like the cigarettes and everything, whilst that's fun, Russell's always great at writing world, like not when I say worlds, I mean just like the worlds we know, the grounded worlds. So you're seeing like, you know, everyone in their flat getting everything like ready for Christmas and everything, and trying to, you know, it felt like a family Christmas. Obviously, um, that's what he's really good at with characters, and like it was meant to be more for soap opera style thing anyway, so it
mm,
works for that. And that's what I like about it too, because you can really relate to the grounded elements there, whilst that's why I quite like the high level concepts. That's the thing. It's like a bit of both,
yeah,
really.
it's a
The high level
balance.
concept of Christmas Carol, but then the really grounded family core elements in
Mm.
Christmas Invasion. Really, yeah.
I mean, Christmas Invasion. It's always been such a comfort episode as well. Exactly what a Chris. Well, I mean, apart from like all of the dread and all the world's ending and all
Mm,
that, but the ending in particular with Song for Ten and Tennant
yeah.
getting dressed in his doctor costume and then the Christmas dinner scene, which I just want. That's probably the happiest scene in
Although
Doctor Who.
thinking about it now as well, I've been watching a lot of the Next Doctor.
Really,
The Christmas specials just, I think they've been sorely missed, and obviously we're recording this after the announcements come out as well.
that they're going to be
I'm so
back,
happy
yeah.
about
Oh,
the like
same.
it's not just one announced, it's two announced yearly. You know, it's the end of next year, then the year after. And he's currently writing what Russell's writing the 2024 one now.
Christ. That's insane. I mean, I really, really can't wait for them because I've missed them so much. I,
Mm.
I like the New Year's Day ones, and of course, talking about like
New
I've
Year's Day was a nice thing, but I feel like
yeah.
it's Christmas for the last few years have just kind of been like
Oh yes, I mean
losing
it's
it a little bit.
yeah. I mean New Year's Day. I mean it was great for. I feel like Eve was the only one that stood out to me because of obvious reason, but and it was very much a comfort for that reason. But I liked Resolution, and I mean I believe I thought I had COVID for Revolution, so
Oh
didn't
wow.
really. I mean, I liked it. It's just that episode. I saw a tweet earlier saying that that episode is aged probably the most poorly within the last 5 years, considering
It's
it's
got a
got
lot of
like John Barrowman
it's
and
got a lot of
Chris
people in it who've
North.
been cancelled. It's like
Yeah,
it's like the one you want to avoid now.
yeah, and it like
Um,
hints towards like Chris North coming back, and it's just
which of course he doesn't
yeah,
now.
and I have my own gripes to that episode, like Jack doing nothing. I like the conversation between him and Yaz. But apart from that, it's kind of like
Mm.
Miracle Day proved
But it's
every
like he kept
reason
telling
why.
everyone it was like one of the other things. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole too much, but it's
Yeah,
one of the
yeah.
things where he kept telling everyone he was immortal, but yeah, it's like, well, we haven't seen you in years do this, so are you
Mm,
going to resurrect at
yeah.
once at all? Like, you're not going to not like get a Dalek shoot you, and everyone's like, no, no, leave him, he's dead, and then
Mm,
he just comes back and saves the day, and they're like, how'd you do that? You know, like they could have done something like that, where it's like the stakes are high because they've lost the immortal man, and
yeah.
yeah, but no. I mean,
No.
he was a good reference for being an old companion, an old friend for
Yeah.
explaining things to Yaz, and I think that was good. But then you don't really see that really come to fruition until these last few episodes.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, not to fall down that rabbit hole, of course.
Yep.
But yeah. My favorite Christmas specials are Voyage of the Damned, A Christmas Carol, and The Husbands of River Song. Those three are probably
Oh yeah, yeah. Because that's the thing. I'm not a massive fan of like. I don't mind the character of River Song, but I can't really. Maybe I'm just a cynic, but I don't know. I can never take it seriously. But until Husbands of River Song, where you kind of see the layer underneath that it is just all a facade,
mm,
and she just kind of speaks her mind, and the Doctor sees that. Oh wait, no, hang on, this isn't face value. So I
mm,
feel like like with the character of the Doctor, for all of his intelligence, he doesn't quite 100% understand the whole idea of masking.
Yeah.
So when River's doing all that stuff, he isn't aware that she's actually really hurting inside. And I think Capaldi really pulled it off well in
Oh,
terms of that episode as
I mean,
well.
he sells every episode well. I mean, he's probably he's just the best. Like, I love Capaldi and I love his acting and he's brilliant. But on to another topic, of course.
Hmm.
So about that, probably my next question is like, what memories do you have with Doctor Who at Christmas? Uh,
Um, a lot of them relate to like, well, I kind of have vague memories of well, for example, I remember after series one of Doctor Who when they had all the different little trailers. And I do watch them. I've been watching them a little bit. This is just kind of getting that vibe again to really feel that like a 10-year-old again. And I'm only like 2 years away from being 30 now. So where's the time gone? Existential
Blimey,
crisis and all that. But
you
like you
you
watch
have
the
been thinking of
trailers.
that one. Blimey.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I just watched the old BBC One trailers where we got when they'd appear on TV and the whole world would stop for you to watch the
Mm,
trailers. The Runaway Bride, obviously the hype from that from the end of Doomsday. Um, yeah, I just remember most Christmas days just being me looking at the time, going, it's midday, still got 6 or 7 hours, and it just being the slowest day ever because waiting for it. And then it would come along, and then I'd be watching it, and then my nan would walk in and start talking. I'm like, "Excuse me, stop! I've been waiting all day for this." We were sat down watching BBC News all day with
mm.
like all the everything going
Queen's
on.
speech and everything. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I've spoken to a few people that I actually know, and quite a lot of them have memories of like parents coming in and talking through it. I know Jack Reeves came on and he talked about his dad talking as like Matt Smith was regenerating, and like his dad like went over to him and said, "Well, this is a bit boring, isn't it?" Like he knew the exact moment because he was about to regenerate, and of course Jack turned around, but as Matt Smith regenerates into Capaldi, it's like so he missed it because
so we
it's
just
like a
looked there, and
sneeze.
then it was Capaldi.
Yeah, that was
Oh
funny.
god.
That one was a great story, I think. Yeah, but it's a particularly important time for Doctor Who fans at Christmas,
Mm.
and I feel, as you mentioned, New Year's Day specials are brilliant, but it wouldn't have
But like
made any.
each year was really important because I remember the feeling of Doctor Who, but it kind of the feeling I had around Doctor Who also maturing as I grew up. If that
Yeah,
makes sense. So like the feeling I had for the Christmas Invasion and Runaway Bride, that was me at 10 or 11. So it's a completely different vibe to say 2008 going into like, I know it's only a couple of years, but you're entering like teenagehood and everything like
yeah,
that, like adolescence. And your understanding of the show, and obviously as you sort of see more things in the layers of the dialogue and everything, it goes beyond the aliens. You start to see characters and everything. It really develops. I remember the next Doctor really hoping that David Morrissey would be the 11th Doctor because I like that idea of it going. You actually get kind of a little preview because he'd already announced he was leaving.
yeah,
I like those little elements, and then of course when but then as you got older, then you're like, okay, I've got like there was obviously you're less looking at the time and going, I've got 6 hours because you end up with things distracting you, don't you, as you get older,
yeah,
and then
yeah. It was very much the same kind of actually for me. Of course, I've got like memories of running home for Christmas because I'd like go to my cousins for a few
mm,
years, and I'd like drag my parents, drag my sister home because we gotta get back for Doctor Who. We gotta get back for Doctor Who. No
mm.
later. I think that was around the Capaldi ones I started doing that, and I missed it once actually and caught up with it as soon as possible. But
I think
I
that's something. I think that's the vibe I miss as well as before iPlayer or streaming
mm,
services where you could watch later. You only had this opportunity, and then you had to
yeah,
wait until it was coming out on DVD. Like the rush home to go and see it, or when you're like, shush, I'm trying to listen here, and you go, oh, you're just you can rewind it or something, or you can do that or whatever, watch live. And I feel like that's kind of got rid of the fun element of
yeah.
being able to run home to watch something. I miss those days because nowadays, if you miss it, you just message your friends, don't talk to me about it, I'll watch it later. And then
Mm.
everybody else is you end up out of sync with people. I just like that idea if it's a whole event that everyone comes together for, and they may not be in the same room, but in a spiritual sort of way, they're all
Oh yeah,
watching
yeah.
Doctor Who. Yeah.
Yeah, I do look forward to them returning though. It's long awaited. I
Mm.
think most people agree with that. I know some people prefer New Year's Day, and who knows? Maybe one day we'll get like a balance. Maybe there'll be New Year's Day and Christmas. I mean, the end of
Could be
time has
a
shown us
nice
that.
little two-parter.
Yeah,
like they did
exactly.
for End of Time.
And the time, exactly. I think that's great for a generation stories, especially since End of
Mm,
Time they're 60 minutes each. I think they're about an hour
yeah.
each. So that's 2 hours of Doctor Who, which I'm gonna sit through soon, which I look forward to. And
Mm.
we watched The Waters of Mars last night actually as well. And
I still think that's probably one of the best New Who stories, if not one
oh
of
yeah.
the best, because the trailers,
Mm.
they were completely on a different level as well.
Oh yeah, yeah.
The villain was something that we need. The villain was a resource that the human race need to survive, and that
Exactly.
you can't get rid of it,
And
or
also
it's
time as
necessary.
well. Time
Yeah,
being the villain as well. And the Doctor actually.
but
Uh
it was his arc coming to a head because he'd lost so much, and then you've
mm,
got a villain you can't beat, and the only way to do it, the only way to save or to stop the villain is to lose everything.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
And
like that
it was a good story.
episode
That
is just completely brutal. Like while rewatching it, there were some moments that really just left an impact, like the droplet hitting the guy's face, and it looks like a tear, but he knows that he's dead
yeah, I
just
like
because of
that.
that singular droplet. And then when that when
That,
the
that kind of
woman,
reminds me a little bit. I know it's not. No, it's not Doctor Who related, but it reminds me a little bit of 28 Days Later. You ever
mm,
watch that?
I watched it
When
a long time ago now.
yeah, but there's this scene where he like a crow's well, crowing at him, and then
Mm,
he kicks this metal gate and looks up at it, and as the crow lifts up, there's actually one of the zombies on it, and the blood hits his eye, and
yeah.
then he knows he's changing too, and he's trying to get his daughter away and everything before he changes. It's
Mm,
kind of got I like that. It's like those sort of books where the
yeah.
characters really reveal themselves because at that moment they're lot that it's all gone, it's all lost, and you really see a sense of character in that.
It's kind of the complete opposite of like when like the trope in horrors, like when someone gets bitten and then they hide it, like
Well, yeah,
they
because
think
at
that
that point they've got seconds. They know it's over. Whereas
yeah.
when you get bitten, you go into that denial, don't you? You go
Mm,
into that denial. Go, no, maybe it's just a scratch.
yeah, and
Well, it's just
the
a
other
chunk
scene,
of arm missing. They're like, no, mate, it's just a scratch. Just a scratch.
it's a mere flesh wound. No,
Yeah, it is but a scratch.
I think the other scene that really hit hard was the woman, I can't remember her name, which is sad because the episode really hammers home that these names are very
From
important.
midnight.
But like no no the Waters of Mars, the mother who watches that video of her children as she backs into the room. Oh, it's
Yeah.
completely brutal. And the fact that that was going to be a Christmas special as well.
Was
Like
Water
that
Mars originally going to be Christmas?
it was going to be called Red Christmas, I believe. Because that's why there's so many references to Christmas in the episode. Like
Like snowing as well.
yeah, they land back on Christmas Day. I think no wait, it was November 21st. But it was like they
I
wanted
imagine
they
that maybe they shifted it when they knew it wasn't going to be Christmas.
yeah, they were talking about like Christmas dinner early on in the story and stuff like that. So apparently it was going to be a Christmas special, but they thought end of time. It's gonna be like you
Mm.
could, but yeah. So my next question is kind of more broad. It's
Hmm.
similar, but it's like, what does Doctor Who mean to you in general?
Um, I suppose it's the freedom to kind of. I suppose it's the freedom to play. It's um recently I don't know if Eamon said in his talk with he's been rewatching the Hartnell era,
Yeah,
and there's just a stark difference between the historicals and the future episodes, but that's because of how they made it in the 60s. Now like you have so much open area with genre that you can change the show whilst it's still being exactly the same, still Man in the Blue Box, he's still from Gallifrey, he's still a Time Lord, um but in the Russell one, it's more soap opera. In
yeah.
Moffat, it's more fairy tale. And Chibnall, I don't know what it really was. I can't really think of.
I mean,
There
the
wasn't really an underlying
historicals
thing.
were great, but it didn't really
Oh
stick
yeah,
to one thing in the end. I mean, Series
maybe it's more
11 was,
cosmic.
yeah.
Cosmic.
I mean, Series 11 was vastly different from Series 12. Series 12 was vastly different from Series 13, but they all kind of came together to create one
Mm.
overarching story. Like, I think Series 11 was kind of more soap opera aspects with Graham and Ryan's arc.
Mm.
Series 12 was more, to be honest, I don't really know how I describe Series 12. I think
I've
it's a
just gone
good
with the word
season, but
cosmic. It just because it just had a
cosmic.
few more of the little bits and
And
pieces.
I'd say Series 13 Flux was bombastic. That's the word I'd use. Pure, in your face, chaotic, pretty much everything you can imagine just there, and it's brilliant in
Yeah.
my opinion. But yeah, I think go on anyways. You know, because like Doctor Who, well, yeah, I fully agree with that kind of regard. It kind of being something to play with. I mean, even as creatives, we do that. It's kind of this toy box, and
Mm.
yeah, I think that sums it up brilliantly. Um,
Mm.
yeah, yeah. I mean, so we've mentioned like what you got planned on Overton
Mm.
Audios next year, but of course there are other channels, other aspects of the Hue community.
Mm.
What do you have kind of more planned in general next year? And you can include the Overton Audio stuff again if
Um, well, I'm working a lot more with TT Productions. I was at a recording session with them about last weekend now for one of the Dickensian Doctor stories.
mm,
And I record that with, and it was nice because it wasn't like being thrown in the deep end, because it was a lot of what you might call just Overton Audio's cast as well. It was
yeah,
myself, James, George, and Eamon. So it was still familiar territory. And then because I hadn't done live recordings, because I get people to remotely record and I edit later, so that was
yeah,
nice. And I've been we're doing a few more read throughs and everything in February. But no, it was good. And then obviously we're doing stuff for Overton Audios anyway. Like we're doing a big 60th based series every month. It goes into December as well. It doesn't just cut off. And the
yeah,
60th is for the 60th year. That's called Divergence. It's just about looking at different what ifs. I suppose it's like a bit of like an Unbound type thing. We're doing that, and that's been a lot of work, because it's been like basically you have to refresh the cast every episode. Um, as well as that, I've been in a lot more of Eamon's Kiwi Doctor stories.
yeah. I mean,
Obviously, since about February this year, we've been working on the Doctor Expanded Multiverse 60th.
yeah, the
Obviously,
last
it's been
universe.
mainly been helmed by Eamon, and I think Aidan's helped out a little bit as well here and there with some of the writing. And because it's their shared universe as well, so we've been kind of helping develop that as well. I think what else I must be. I've got I think there's one more thing. Not that I can think of off the top of my head, and sorry if I've forgotten. I'll probably remember it like in a few hours ago. I should have said that. But no, other than that, I've been just getting on as normal on the whole audios front.
Yeah,
No volumes continuing. Obviously, next year I'm aiming that to be more of a Doctor Who orientated year. There are still I'm still make original audios, but I'm trying to make it that everyone kind of has like their 60th moment, like their 60th dedicated volume or whatever.
yeah.
So I've been working on that, and there's been a few little funny comedic things. I've been trying to make a few more comedic volumes, because I find myself getting a bit too cynical sometimes in them. So I want to
I think
be a
that's
bit more
one thing that
sensible.
like most fan producers and writers I've brought on here have said. I mean, Abby, for example, you know, Dickensian is going for a more comedic kind of
Yeah,
nature, while it's usually well, a lot of death, pretty much. I mean,
yeah. And that's
I've
like I quite like stories that don't end 100% well, because
yeah,
whilst I know that for an audience, you want something that ends feel good.
mm,
But
uh,
I'm of like, as long as you do it right and you give the characters who don't make it their moment as well to have a complete arc, I
I
feel like
think
it's justified if it makes
I
sense.
think that's why I love Children of Earth so much as a
Yeah.
season. That's the like the embodiment of tragedy and trauma and awfulness, and it works
Mm,
so well. Because if you were to
yeah.
end that off like happy endings, every smiles all around, Yanto's dead, we can move on. We can laugh straight
Well,
away. We can go
it
and
makes
have
sense, because it's like one of those things that I think Russell said
yeah,
at the time, which is if all of the team members survived series two, it would have been a bloodbath.
mm,
Like I mean, obviously for those who haven't seen Torchwood, apologies for the spoilers, but I can't see Tosh surviving Children of
yeah.
Earth. She's
I
too
mean,
like she's got a backbone to her, but like looking at like what happens in the first episode, at the end of the first episode, Children of Earth, you're going to be like,
Yeah,
they
there would have
wouldn't.
been no way for them to survive.
And Owen, if he was still in that condition as well.
I mean, Owen,
Um,
if Owen survived the explosion, there is an interesting theory that if he'd went with Jack into Thames' house, Yanta would still be alive because the poison
well,
wouldn't
yeah,
be
he can't breathe, can he?
the air wouldn't have affected him exactly.
Well, in fact, Jack would have died. He would have just carried on standing there.
Yeah, I mean, I can just imagine him like continuing to shoot the glass or something like that, or maybe
Because because Owen's quite unhinged. He'd end up just getting the butt of the gun, and just smashing and punching that glass.
or
He
maybe
could, he
just
could, he could also walk into the tank.
walk into the tank and just rip them apart.
Yeah, he could literally like. I bet that's probably why they got rid of him because he would be too
yeah.
OP, wouldn't he?
I could imagine him in. I think he'd be interesting in Miracle Day because he'd be no category.
There was a nice reference to Owen in that.
Oh yeah, yeah. But he'd be under no category. That's the thing. He'd not be alive. He'd not be mortal. He'd not be immortal. He'd just be he'd be the only
He'd
one.
probably be taken for experiments. He'd probably be taken for experiments because they'd listen for a heartbeat. He doesn't have one. But yet, even if they like, I think it was saying that even though the oh no, it wasn't, was he? Because there was that soldier that blew himself up, and there was no heartbeat, no brain function, but there he was. So technically, he might be classed as dead, which he is.
Which he is, yeah.
And he has that wound in his chest, sort of like what Rex had. It won't ever heal, so
yeah. And it would have been an interesting inclusion. And to be honest, I would have taken Owen over the American team. Not gonna lie,
I just wish that there's some way, because obviously with the licensing issues, they're allowed to, for example, like Big Finish, were allowed to say the characters by name.
See, yeah, I would like Rex to come back, and I'd like Esther to be mentioned.
The Doctor Who wiki just says he became the head of the CIA, and I'm like, but he stayed immortal.
Yeah. I mean,
the thing is, they say that he is immortal, but he's now the head of the CIA.
See, the thing I don't like about Rex is that he is inherently dislikable. Like, he spends half the time having a go at them and saying, "Oh, torture can't be real. Aliens can't be real." And then when
he's also very what you might. He's got a lot of testosterone. He doesn't like people expressing themselves how they like to. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I like Miracle Day. I think it's flawed yet interesting telly.
Too long.
Too long.
Should have been 6 or 8 episodes.
I do like how they use it to explore literally everything you could, though.
Well, that's the thing. That's what I tried to do with some of my time traveler audios that I do. I was like, Miracle Day is kind of the hub for that, because in Time Traveler, half of the population of Earth just die in an hour.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, what? Number one, without getting too dark about it, because this is Christmas, what happens to the people left behind, like the bodies?
Yeah.
They don't just disappear like Thanos style. A virus happens. And it's like, what happens there? What do the government do? You know, et cetera, et cetera. Like Miracle Day was a reference point for that.
Yeah, and I think
as well.
That's the thing. Miracle Day covers all grounds. It covers overpopulation. I mean, there's even comments about birth and mortality rates and birth defects and the medical side of it all, the political side of it all, the cult side of it all, the scientific side of it all, not just medical.
I wish we'd seen more of the cult, because it showed them wearing the masks, but what if we got in and met the people behind it, and there was like a twist as to who they were, but they were people who'd been hurt.
And
had been hurt, but they could have been hurt pre-miracle. And in the process of recovering, suddenly this happens, and they're absolutely fine. And that's why they call themselves the Soulless, because they feel like they had it taken from them.
I mean, that would have been brilliant, and it's such striking imagery. And I feel like Oswald Danes is, well, it's a very much angelic America embodied in one person, in the worst person imaginable. And
see, that's the thing, is that I don't like him, but I like what the character was meaning in the story.
The character,
because he does ultimately a heroic thing, but for the very wrong reason of believing there's an afterlife where we can, let's say, continue hunting.
I mean, that's the thing. People always say that his character is redeemed or something like that, or
it isn't.
He is not redeemed whatsoever. He is not the hero of that story. He literally blows himself up while reciting what he did and what he's going to do
And
to
how
his
proud he
victim,
is.
and how proud he is. That is not a redemption. I mean, I don't understand how anyone could twist that into redemption, and it's not supposed to be. But
No,
that's what a lot of people's
it's
complaints
someone
are,
doing the right. It's someone doing an admirable thing for the very
for
wrong
a
reasons.
disgusting reason. Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to Christmas.
Yes.
Yeah, from Oswald Danes to Christmas. Oh, what a combination. Oh
How did
God.
we get there? Well, the thing is, it's like we're not necessarily talking about the subject of him, but just what it means
Yeah.
in the story. But
I mean,
nonetheless,
I do
not
feel
very
like,
Christmassy.
without getting too much into it, Miracle Day
Mm,
is it seemed outlandish at the time. It seemed bombastic at the time. But looking at it
mm.
from this year backwards, it's very much it's very real. Like we wouldn't have imagined any world situation could be like that at that time. But looking at it
Yeah.
now, it's certainly ahead of its time for the narrative it was telling, for sure. I
Well, that's
think
Russell.
that's very Russell.
Years and years is another example.
Mm,
Half the things that have happened there, in years and years,
have
have
happened
happened already.
in some shape or form. Yeah, I mean that show is a
Yeah.
work of art.
I mean,
Um,
again, not again. I know it's Christmas related, but a good example was, well, the main story. You've watched the whole series, haven't you?
yeah,
You know what happens to like in terms of like the
yeah,
camps.
yeah, yeah. I mean that's
And yet,
very
remember a
American.
couple of years ago, they discovered in America that they had camps
Yeah,
with cages. They threw
yeah.
people in if they didn't have identification. They just threw them and left them in cages. It's like, no, it is actually happening.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing with Russell's writing, is that he does do that, and it's just insane. That man is a prophet. He's actually insane. I mean, the things that he's prophesizing is the end of days, which is not really well. It's if you're going to be a prophet, that's probably.
A nice reuse of Vivian Rook from Sound of Drums, though.
Oh yeah, yeah. That was brilliant. That name drop. But
Let's just say it's part of the wider multiverse, the Rookverse.
oh God.
Yes.
But yeah, so that's pretty much it, I guess. I mean, I think that's all the Christmassy questions I've got, all the next year questions.
Mm.
Yeah. Thanks for coming back on. It's been a
Of
pleasure
course, no
talking to you
problem.
again. If there's anything you want to promote, of course, go ahead now, and I'll put it in the description.
Um, yeah, obviously, what I make with Overton Audios, we've just the whole stuff that we're doing with Prism really kicks off in the new year. Obviously, I'm going to be more in TT Productions. There's obviously the Dwem stuff. They all kind of start interconnecting and everything like that eventually. I like to think that all like the fan stuff is all part of one multiverse. We can always
Oh
meet
yeah,
and everything.
yeah. I mean,
But
there's
yeah,
always
mainly obviously
like
myself.
there's so much fan stuff that interconnects out there. I mean, like Endgame,
Mm.
DWEM, all of like the connected universes. It's all part of the same multiverse at the end of the day,
Oh,
I think.
exactly, yeah. But yeah, and then of course, I know that because I listened to your podcast with Eamon and James so far, that you don't want me to recite my favorite Doctor's Christmas line, which I was planning on doing until I heard you say that,
Of
and I was like,
course, yes.
you
What is your
literally
Christmas
took what I was going to
message?
say. I was like, no,
Mm-hmm,
not my Hartnell. What I will say is, and that, the old traditional Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to everyone.
A very traditional Christmas message to end off this episode. Thanks for watching, everyone. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you haven't. Make sure to check out the other episodes in the description below. There's also a Ko-fi that I've now set up. Although, as mentioned to James, my credit card recently got pickpocketed. So I'm
Yes, I heard that. You've been able to cancel it and everything?
yeah, I cancelled it straight away, and
Yeah.
I should be getting you on in the next couple of days, so I will rectify that on Ko-fi. And if anyone has donated, I will fix that. But yeah, thank you for watching, everyone, and I shall leave it at that. Bye bye, everyone.
Farewell.
Bye. And